Noor wasn't a poor girl, but she was strikingly beautiful. She worked alone in an abandoned mansion. In that mansion, a jinn had waited for a beautiful girl for centuries. The jinn tempted Noor with riches, and she forgot everything in her love. What he did to this innocent girl will make your soul tremble. This is the story of Noor, who lived in an old mud-brick house in Narabad. Her life was no fairy tale. Her face held an innocent expression, and her eyes sparkled with a glimmer of hope. But circumstances had stolen her smile. Every day was a struggle. Caring for her sick mother, empty dishes, a leaking roof, and a faint flicker of hope in her heart. Noor's mother, Fatima Bibi, was a kind woman, but for the past 4 years, she had been bedridden. Her body was worn out. There was no money for medicine, and close relatives never came to visit. There was no source of income. Many nights passed with empty stomachs, yet Noor never complained to God. Each morning, Noor woke to the call for dawn prayer, prostrated on an old prayer rug, and recited the Holy Quran. In her prayers, she always asked for one thing. "O Allah, heal my mother and bless us with a lawful source of income." Many villagers suggested she take a sinful path. Some proposed marriage for selfish reasons. Others wanted to hire her as a maid. Noor always gave the same reply. "What my Lord has written is best. I cannot sell my patience." One day, an elderly woman from the village told her about an abandoned mansion on the edge of the forest, where no one could stay for long. But its owners, now living in the city, needed someone to work there. They paid well for the hard labor. Noor looked into her mother's eyes. In them, she saw weakness, pain, and helplessness. She made a decision. "Even if the devil lives in that mansion, I will go there in the name of Allah, and with His words on my lips." With her mother's permission, she packed 2 pieces of bread and a small Quran in a bag, and set off on a journey where her patience and faith would be tested like never before. The mansion Noor was heading to was called Shamsiha Haveli, once owned by the wealthy landlord Nawab Zuluddin Shamsi. About 100 years ago, it was the grandest mansion in the village, with marble walls, massive chandeliers, gardens, and fountains. Nawab was immensely rich but had only one child, a daughter named Zulekha. They say Zulekha was extraordinarily beautiful, but very arrogant. One day, she was married off to a kind but poor man she didn't like. That same night, Zulekha locked herself in the mansion's highest room, and by morning, her body was found hanging from a chandelier. Strangest of all was the angry expression on her face, as if even in death she hated someone. After that, strange things began happening in the mansion. Servants started disappearing. Some went mad. Others were found wandering the forests, muttering to themselves. Village elders said someone had trapped a jinn in the mansion's walls through black magic, and now it roamed freely. Many claimed to hear a woman's cries at night. Some said they saw a woman in a white dress at the windows. Village children feared approaching the mansion, and adults passed by at a distance, offering it a greeting. It was said that those who took jobs there never stayed long. Some left in fear, others vanished forever. But when Noor heard all this, she said only one thing. "If this mansion belongs to jinns, my Lord is also Rabbun Nas, Malikun Nas, Ilahun Nas." With that faith, she stepped through the mansion's gates, where time hid in the cracks of the walls, and Zulekha's laments still echoed in the wind. The unseen presence dwelling in the walls of Shamsiha Haveli was an unusual jinn named Kamil, neither fully jinn nor fully human. He belonged to the spiritual jinns who were once devout and pure as angels. His connection with Allah was deep, and he was among the jinns destined for paradise. But centuries ago, a trial broke him. Kamil fell in love with a human girl. He became so consumed by this love that when she married another, he complained to his lord Zacharias, "You placed love in my heart. Why did you take her from me?" This complaint tore him from the realm of spiritual jinns and drew him toward the boundaries of worldly love and desire. He came to the mansion tormented, where Zulekha's hatred and the curse of her death had already filled the walls with demonic forces. Kamil wandered alone in that mansion for years, his soul shattered in the name of love. When Noor first entered the mansion, her voice, her recitation, her patience, all began to soothe Camille's broken existence. He secretly watched her every day as she prayed with her rosary for her mother, whispered Quranic verses while sweeping the floor, or wept in prayer at night. To Camille, she was an extraordinary girl. This love wasn't physical, but it filled the void in his soul, which had been lonely for centuries. But the love of a jinn for a human, and the love of both for a devoted servant of Allah, was it a pure love, or the start of another sin? Camille himself was caught in this confusion. But this time, he was ready to cross all boundaries to attain this love. Not for Noor, but to feel whole. And so began a journey where the line between love and creation started to blur. Only a few days had passed since Noor arrived at Shamsiha Haveli. But Camille's obsession grew daily. He watched her every minute, never leaving her side, yet never revealing himself. His way of loving was strange. He didn't want to scare her but to win her love with care and affection. One night, Noor was crying because she had no money for her mother's medicine. Suddenly, a cupboard door opened on its own, and a pouch fell to the floor filled with gold coins. Noor was frightened. She knew this wasn't human work. Trembling, she began reciting the Quran, but the coins remained on the floor. That same night, she heard a voice in a dream. "This is for you, Noor. Just say yes. You and your mother will never suffer again." Noor opened her eyes and immediately prostrated. "Oh my Lord, your patience and pride are enough for me. I don't need anyone's protection. I seek your support, not the mercy of some jinn." The next day, a sweet fragrance filled the mansion's walls. Silk sheets appeared on the bed, roses on the table, and her mother's medicines materialized on their own. Noor cast them all aside. She recited Surah Al-Baqarah from the Quran and said firmly, "If this is from some hidden being, listen carefully. I am a servant of Allah, not of anyone else." It was the first time someone had rejected Camille with such patience, faith, and self-respect. Camille writhed in agony, but the power of Noor's prayers forced him to retreat. That night, Noor placed her hands on her mother's feet and prayed, "O Allah, you are the helper of the poor. You are my Lord and my mother's. If you will, you can ease our hardships without the aid of jinns or humans." The next morning, a kind man from the village, Hafiz Ibrahim Sahib, arrived unexpectedly at the mansion and said, "Daughter, I felt a strange pull in my heart, as if a pure soul needed help." Tears filled Noor's eyes. Camille watched, and now his love faced a new test, Noor's unwavering faith in Allah. When Hafiz Ibrahim arrived at the mansion, Noor told him everything, about the pouch of gold, the voice in her dream, the silk sheets, and her mother's medicines. With a deep sigh, Hafiz Sahib said, "My daughter Noor, the trial you're facing isn't yours alone. It's the story of every believer who doesn't grasp the true meaning of tawakkul, trust in Allah." He added, "Remember, whoever relies on Allah, Allah is sufficient for them." He explained, "Tawakkul isn't just praying. It's the firm belief that help will come only from Allah, from where no one can see." Noor nodded, tears in her eyes. Hafiz Sahib also taught her how to shield herself from satanic whispers. Whenever you hear an unknown voice or temptation, say, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim," and recite Surahs Al-Falaq and An-Nas. These two surahs, called Al-Mu'awwidhatayn, protect from all evil. He gave Noor a small tasbih, prayer beads, and said, "Whenever you feel fear, repeat Ya Hafizu 33 times and Ya Mutakabbir 33 times. Allah's protection will be a shield around you." Noor asked, "But, Hafiz Sahib, do jinns really exist? Can they harm us humans?" Hafiz Sahib smiled and replied, "Yes. The existence of jinns is proven in the Quran. Surah Al-Jinn is dedicated to them. Even the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, invited jinns and recited the Quran to them. But jinns who follow shaitan's path mislead people with whispers and deception." He then shared a hadith. Shaitan flows through a person's body like blood, but the remembrance of Allah drives him out. From that day, Noor began reciting Surah al-Baqarah in every room of the mansion. Kamil heard it all daily. His heart burned, yet strangely, he also felt peace. For the first time, he realized that to win Noor's love, he didn't need to fight her lord. He needed to understand him. Near the Nurabad village mosque, under the shade of an old neem tree, an elderly man often sat, turning his prayer beads. His name was Hafiz Ibrahim. At 65, his eyes held light, and his heart carried a passion that could make the young blush. When someone in the village fell ill, needed a Fatiha, or sought advice on raising a child, they first thought of Hafiz Sahib. Every word he spoke was tied to the Quran and Hadiths. His voice held such spirituality that young girls like Noor sat before him to learn recitation, and elders found solace in his prayers. One night, during Tahajjud prayer, he suddenly felt deep unease, as if a pure soul was calling for help. He gathered his belongings, took the Holy Quran and spiritual books, and headed to the mansion. Noor wasn't surprised to see him. When she explained her situation, Hafiz Sahib placed his hand on her head and said, "My daughter, you're caught between love and shaitan's whispers, but remember, nothing surpasses Allah's pleasure." He began reciting Surah al-Baqarah, Ayat al-Kursi, and Surah al-Jinn in every room of the mansion. Hafiz Sahib gave her a bottle of blessed water, over which he had recited Surah al-Fatiha and Surah al-Ikhlas 41 times. He said, "Sprinkle this water in every room, and at night always recite Surahs an-Nas, al-Falaq, and Ayat al-Kursi. This will cool the fire of the jinns." Kamil, watching from behind the walls, felt weakness and shock for the first time. To him, this wasn't just a scholar, but a spiritual warrior, fighting not with words, but with the light of Allah's words. Hafiz Ibrahim now guarded Noor, protecting her not only from jinns but from anything that could distance her from Allah. He said, "Noor, you must fight not just jinns, but your own nafs, your inner desires. The fire of love becomes light only when it holds Allah's pleasure." Now in the mansion, Kamil's love grew on one side, while Hafiz Ibrahim's prayers and the Quran's light began transforming the mansion itself. Within Shamsiha Haveli, a silent battle unfolded between jinns and humans. But far from the mansion, in a mud brick hut in the village, a mother prostrated before her lord. Fatima Bibi, Noor's mother, was still bedridden, but her soul cried out daily. Her daughter's honor, faith, and lonely life burned her heart. Since Noor left, she ate less, but prayed more. Every night she wept and said, "O my Lord, you know my daughter. She follows your path, loves your book, and I've left her in your care. Protect her from all deception, from every jinn, from every human or satanic force." One night, as Noor recited the Quran in the mansion, and Kamil watched from behind the wall, he suddenly felt a strange spiritual vibration, as if an unknown light had entered the mansion. Kamil retreated, feeling suffocated for the first time. At that very moment, in the village hut, Fatima Bibi prostrated, saying, "O Allah, if my life is needed to protect my daughter, take me, but keep her from all evil." Her prayer pierced the heavens and reached Allah's throne, the Arsh. They say a mother's sincere prayer can even change fate. That night, Kamil realized Noor wasn't alone. She was shielded by her mother's prayers, which held a direct connection to Allah. The next day, Noor saw a white light in one of the mansion's windows, and felt an odd peace in her heart. She knew her mother must have been praying, and her Lord had answered. She repeated a Quranic verse, "Remember me, and I will remember you." Noor's repeated rejections and constant seeking of refuge in Allah's name gradually turned Kamil's love into pain, then obsession. At first, he found peace just being near Noor. Now, he felt insulted by her every action. "I wanted to give her everything, wealth, comfort, even her mother's healing, and she rejected me just because I'm a jinn."